Okay, good. All right. So we said that marriage is going into the marriage. What we want to know is that if we're under the chuppah, we're already connected, and when we leave the chuppah with the ksuva, unless is some sort of what we call mekach ta'us, but basically the marriage we're in is a creation, and it started before we went to the chuppah. The dating period, whatever, makes us it gets us to the process of elimination, and we leave the chuppah, and therefore the hashkafa is that we belong together. Belong together means we are attached to each other. Hold on, I'm just seeing who else wants to come into the class. I don't think that's it. Hold on one more minute, please. I just want to double check. Okay. Yes, me too. Tuesday. Okay, I think we're okay. And let me just send this to, hold on. What's up, Sarah, Monday? Okay. Just one more minute here. Forward to Anna. Parents. Okay. Let me send these. How do I send it? Hold on. Okay. All right, just one more minute here. Class is now. Okay, there we go. So this is the idea. The concept, we're living in a world where uniqueness is not what's really emphasized as much as independence, separateness. Separateness seems to be is what's being emphasized, and nobody's going to argue with that, because in the raw nature of our thinking and our being, separateness is very, very natural. When you're living in a physical world, you feel separate from the other. But what is so unusual for us is that, and unique for Am Yisrael, is that this concept of separateness defies the spiritual truth, spiritual reality. It's a different reality. The physical reality is a reality of separateness. You can't say that we're not born as Siamese twins, but in the spiritual reality, which is something you can't see, and you have to learn it, and you have to trust the guidance that we're getting in the learning. You have to trust that this is our relationship, not just with our husbands, but is the whole relationship with our husband. Trusting that relationship comes from our relationship with Hashem. Hashem puts us together, and in a way that is what I call, we are attached to each other. Now, how does that attachment play itself out? So that's the quality of chen. Chen isha al bala. It's a hard word to explain, because it's individual. It's how every woman demonstrates her knowing and her relationship with Hashem, and knowing that Hashem puts us together, so we belong. So it is basically expressed in loyalty, in this feeling of belonging, right, from the essence of their reality. In other words, it's just no two people go to the chuppah just accidentally. It is a spiritual reality that brings us to choosing, as if we're choosing our zivug, our partner. It gives us the feeling as if we're choosing our partner, but in essence, there is a reality that precedes even the feeling of choosing, and that is that we are a unity. We belong as a attachment to each other. And that's how, and then we get married. So we're already attached. Hashem, that's the spiritual reality of our marriage. And now we go on, and we're going to bring this bond. We're going to play it out. And the chen is the feeling. It comes with a feeling of attachment. I would call it loyalty. We are loyal. We're attached to Hashem. We're loyal to Hashem. We're attached to our husbands. We're loyal to our husbands. And it gets to the place where it actually, this attachment is associated with love. Magia ha'ahava. In other words, first you have to feel the chen, the attachment, the spiritual attachment to Hashem through recognizing our husbands as being part and parcel of ourselves. Okay, so that's where fulfillment begins. So many couples don't feel fulfilled because they've never begun to understand the spiritual truth of their marriage. So if they're still second guessing themselves, why did I marry him? Why did this? He's that. All that is not going to help us to feel fulfilled. Because what the expectations, if we don't have the concept of unity, our expectations about the relationship are unfulfillable. They cannot be fulfilled because they're subjective, they're based on romantic ideas, they're based on the culture, the society. It's not based on an absolute trust and guiding relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem is our guide, and Hashem is the creator. And we're so fortunate to have this type of guidance in our life, because without it, we are, as I say, we're going to live an unfulfillable life. All we have to think about is, how do I bring about a feeling of attachment and loyalty to my husband that brings Hashem into the picture and impacts and influences my husband to be better, his best self, because he's feeling the loyalty and the attachment, which is tied into the love. I mean, you think about what is our love of Hashem? Our love of Hashem is reflected in our loyalty to Hashem. A perfect example, Shalom Neda, is this Rabbi D, who, as I mentioned to you, is one of my husband's chavrusas. He's gone deeper than his logic, deeper than his emotions, to the spiritual truth. Everything's from Hashem, and it's about connecting and being loyal to the connections. He says he's loyal to Hashem, he's loyal to Eretz Yisrael, and he's loyal to Am Yisrael. Oh, okay, hold on. There's somebody in the waiting room. Hold on. Let me just get back here. Hold on. Waiting room. Let's see here. Yes, let's get to the waiting room. Hold on. The actions, participants. Here we go. Participants. Yes. Admit. Okay, here we go. All right. So let's get back to where we were. Okay. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. All right. I think where did Eva disappear to? You here with us, Eva? Meirav, welcome. Okay. I don't know. Eva disappeared. Yeah. All right. So what we're saying is this marriage is nisuim. Nisuim has the root word nosei, to carry. What are we carrying? We're carrying in our hearts and in our minds the spiritual truth that we are a divine creation, that our husband and ourselves are a divine creation. And it says, yeah. So the idea is that it's sort of like how the feeling a person has, the comfortable feeling. In other words, when you feel you belong together, it's the first thing is when you feel the loyalty and you feel the loyalty, the belonging, then there's a comfort level that is, we belong to each other, we're loyal to each other. It comes with a deep feeling of which ultimately is expressed in we see it, or not ultimately, it's expressed. We express this deep feeling, this deep commitment. It's not commitment. It's because commitment is something more non-spiritual. The spiritual side of the marriage is that we don't have to commit to the unity. We are already a unity. And now we have to show it, bring it, make our actions reflect the spiritual truth. And that is the chen, nesiyat chen, you're carrying the chen. The chen is loyalty and the attachment to each other, which brings with it, as I said, a level of comfort with each other, a comfort level. It's sort of the way we feel about a neighborhood, your childhood neighborhood that you grew up in, right? So you had your address and you belonged in that address, and that address was part of who you are. Everybody has a permanent address, and there's always a string of attachment. You know, we're all older, we're not living where we used to live as children, but there's always just the thought of that place. It evokes something in us, right? So our marriage is our address. It is exactly where we belong once we leave the chuppah. And that is, so it's not, so we have to recognize though, that we are living in two worlds. We live in the candlelit world, the world in the home, where of course, ishti zo beiti, my wife is my home, right? Because this is where I belong. I belong with this woman. I belong in this place. It goes together. Okay, so Hashem makes it, and this is also very important. Men especially, they get very attached to the place where they live, especially if it includes a shul that they go to. It's hard for a man to leave his shul, his community, and his home. And Hashem makes it that way. Hashem makes it because it's part of a basic loyalty and belonging to. Why is it hard to leave? Because we feel we belong there. Okay. So even though you might have grown up, any person might have grown up in an environment, let's say it was totally polluted, it doesn't matter. it was the childhood environment. It's where we developed familiarity. It's where we belonged. It's where it was our address, right? So even though somehow or other it wasn't so maybe fabulously looking, but it was ours. It was our address. And that's what makes it special to us, because we belong. We feel the belonging there. And and that's what it is, that for especially for a husband, but for any couple, there are two things that stabilize him. This feeling of belonging to, like we belong to Hashem, a husband and wife belong to each other. It's an element of stability. By the way, that's of course one of the difficult parts of divorce, because it's a very destabilizing, and especially if it's not necessary, because people just don't know. They don't see, if you just approach the relationship from a strictly judgmental point. I made a mistake. This is not the right one. It's this, that. And so we have to, doesn't mean we don't have to do things to improve and be able to make the connection easier, better, happier. But the connection is there. So there's two things that stabilize for a man: his wife and his location where he lives. And both have this quality of chen. A person feels, you can't, a place where you live doesn't necessarily react the way a wife does, but it's like, this is where I belong. This is where I belong. Chen makom al yoshvav, chen isha al ba'ala. This is a quote directly from the Gemara, and this is the quality. So when you see the word chen, chananta, everything there is, and even chinuch has the word chen in it. If you feel the attachment of the teacher to the student, then you open up the student's heart and head to learning. If there's no attachment, it's very hard to learn. And again, these are points that are very important in today's generation between parents and children. We have to know that more important than teaching a child this or that detail, the most important thing is the relationship. And you have to know the child has to feel he's got a place in this, he has a permanent place in this home. And the way we do that is by saying, I taught this a very long time ago, but I'm going to repeat it. If there's room for my opinion, there's room for me in this house. And children can come home with opinions that are very opposite our values and our thinking, and yet we cannot crush them. And I always say, that's one way of looking at things. You're right, I can understand, I can see, that's one way of looking at things. Tell me more. All right, instead of crushing or silencing, tell me more. So that's the two aspects. So when we think about the word chen and we think about it's chen isha, we show our attachment, and that's what makes up the relationship. And the attachment is loyalty, and then everything else that needs to go with in a relationship. For instance, a woman doesn't know, it's a very sad thing, when a woman doesn't know how to maintain her dignity in the face of opposing thoughts and actions. So she's trying to fight with her husband, as opposed to first create a relationship and then talk about it. So the relationship is always based on, I agree, that's one way of looking at things. I see, this is important to you. I wish it was like this way. Let me explain. The way I wish the house looked, or I wish that the situation was the way you're describing. I see it's important. That's a relationship. That yet doesn't have to do with anything. It just means I'm staying connected to you. And the big prayer that we have to remember to, because this is all spiritual, is to say, Hashem, please help me stay connected, even when I don't feel like being so. Very important. Okay, so going back to where we left off before. So the love here is based on knowing the spiritual truth and the spiritual origin of the marriage, and having as a goal, as an outside goal between the husband and wife, the expression of this attachment. And that's why, and we have both what we learned a few weeks ago, the word ishut and re'ut. Re'ut is when two people bond together for an external goal, and if the external goal is a spiritual one, the bond is a very long and very solid one. If the goal is material, physical, it could disappear like that. But if the bond is if the goal is a spiritual one, then it is basically, it's about growth, it's about self-growth, it's about the growth of the unity, and that comes with a lot of satisfaction and a lot of fulfillment. Hard work, but fulfillment. Okay, so it says here, okay, so the love that has external goals, other than, let's say, so the external goal could be raising children to be from the external, but on the other hand, it is still, it could be shaken up because it is based on an external goal, for instance. But if it's based on an internal spiritual reality, right, then it is a love that is not conditional. It's based on a spiritual reality, a spiritual truth about the couple, about the marriage, and it's not based on anything external, just external circumstances, finances, person's personality, his habits, his bad habits, his good. Does that all play into the picture? Of course. And that all has to be dealt with, but it can only be dealt on the foundation of a relationship of belonging to. We're here to help each other. And so if there's if there are differences, you have to make room for the differences. And she likes to be punctual. She likes to be 5 minutes early to any appointment, because if you're 5 minutes early, you're never late. And the husband is a guy who likes to function under the pressure of just making it on time. And it's a lot of friction between. And it has to be dealt, it has to be worked with. But I can tell you that if the woman wants to be early and the husband is, then I would say the avoda here for her would be, of course, to be able to say, I know it's not your intention to be late, and or to make me nervous that we're going to be late, right? Let's say you have to go to a PTA meeting, parent-teachers meeting. So I know it's not your intention. It does make me uncomfortable. Is there anything we can do to help each other? In other words, we don't sit and diagnose, you've got this terrible problem, because it's not so. If his being late is causing me to be nervous, so I might have to, part of the formula, I might have to take care of my own calming down. It's not so terrible. If we cut there, few minutes, it's not so terrible. It could be very, it's very trying, it's very difficult, but we have to make room for another way of doing things. Some people go through life on a bumpy road because they're not planned or organized, and some people go through life on a smoother road. But the fact of the matter is, doesn't mean that just because you went on a smoother road, that the bumpy road that the other person took, they're happy with it. They're okay. You have to find the way to move over and make room for another way of doing things. You have two married daughters. One is got a perfectionist home, and the other one, it's like things are flying in all directions. But the husband and wife seem to be happy. Everything's going well. The children are okay. And you have to say, that's another way of doing things. We don't have to put a judgment on it. We have to, because otherwise the relationship is compromised. Anyone have a question on what I said so far? Because this is very, very, it's critical. It requires a lot of tefillah, because again, Hashem, the reason why, the justification for all the tefillah is that we are just being loyal to Hashem. You put us together. That means that whatever it is that I have to learn about myself and make the relationship between the two of us become a one of guided. I can't tell you how harmonious it will always be, but it's guided by you, Hashem. You're guiding it, you're blessing it, you're making things work, and that's where we want it. That's the element that needs to be need to be aware of. So we put our disappointments, frustrations, worries, fears, or anything on that in that area, we put it into a tefillah. If this is going to happen, only you, Hashem, can make it happen. So we learn that the test of the marriage is a test. Mivchan hanisuin is not when things are going well. Baruch Hashem, there'll be enough times, hopefully, that things are going well. And they don't have to go well at all areas, but even if they go well in one area, for instance, I have students who will tell me that what do you call it? The marriage is quite difficult, but the children are a dream. They're just the midos, and they're so wonderful. In other words, Hashem rewards in some area the efforts to belong together and to be faithful. And so it is when things are going well in, let's say, most areas that we would expect, based on our expectations, right? That's not the test of the marriage, right? Because things are, it says here, Yitachen she'en kan el yireut, yedidut shel kabbalat toelet mimush ritzonot, okay? Because the test of the marriage is really not when you have that your mutual goals are somehow or other being advanced. So it says here, I'm sorry, I have to remember what I'm going to. Yeah, okay, but if a woman is only in it for the times that the relationship produces an advancement of her personal goals, then a woman, as we talked about, that and she only says thank you when she gets what she's after in the marriage, right? All right, so that type of a woman who only thanks when she's getting, she is considered to be unfaithful. Unfaithful. because the faithfulness has to come when you're not getting also what you're wanting, and knowing how to express it in a way that shows attachment, which is like, he comes in, I know it's not, and he say he's rough or this, I know it's not your intention, right? To be unfriendly or rough, whatever you want to say, judgmental, critical. When you speak in that tone, it makes me feel, I want you to know, because I know it's not your intention, you couldn't be, you're not aware of it, but it makes me feel unsafe, unprotected, not so connected, right? So you give another person a chance to go back and revisit. So that type of, I know that's not your intention, expresses relationship, expresses connection. And that's how we approach things that people who are in our inner circle, our love circle, how we approach things so that they can hear and we can mirror to them what they're doing, and they can hear what it is, the impact, and how it's impacting us. They have to be able to hear it. And if there's no relationship, they won't hear it, no matter how much they're doing something that seems destructive. It's not by telling the person you're destroying me that will close their ears up for sure. But by saying, I'm sure you're not aware that when you speak in that tone, it is painful. It feels, it doesn't make me feel secure or safe or protected or happy, or however you want to put it. Okay, so that's the difference. So a woman's loyalty comes when she's tested. Kasher nisum bali de bitoy dafka. Okay, the bond of marriage is expressed specifically when I'm sorry, right, specifically when it's not tied into specific personal disappointments. In other words, I can be disappointed about certain things in my marriage, but it doesn't undo the underlying spiritual reality that we are a unity and that we belong together. How could somebody who belongs to me hurt me so much? Because it takes there's a complexity of life, and we don't. The complexity of life is that although we might be united on a spiritual level, the physical, what they call the nurturing aspects of our life were not nurturing, and created a certain type of, we grew up in a home. I had one woman said her husband was beaten by his father like an animal. I mean, how damaged, beaten is damaged, right? And so he hasn't got, so he protects himself, and he doesn't have that much self-awareness in terms of emotions and lack of it. Okay, so we have to, but the fact is that together they have beautiful children, and we have to work with the matzoi and not the ratzoi. There's no romantic, a romantic idea of who our husband has to be. This is who he is. And now we show our loyalty and attachment to Hashem by showing our loyalty and attachment to our husbands and expressing what, being able to know how to create the environment which is an environment of connection, in order for us to be able to express the things that are difficult for us, painful, frustrating, whatever, by prefacing it is, I know this is not your intention. Okay, and this is how we stay connected, and this is the true simcha of marriage, because in this connection, when we're doing it from a healthy place, from a spiritually healthy place, the men will be affected, they will be impacted, and they will respond accordingly. Why? Because Hashem guides the hearts of kings and leaders, and Hashem's direct guidance over our husband, who Chatan domel lemelech, a husband is like a king. So Hashem is going to directly impact him. If we do what Hashem is asking us, this faithfulness is belonging to, and of course, as I say, in an expressive way. You have to express the pain, the difficulty within the context of we're connected. So Hashem is going to impact our husbands, and the result, and the result is that his behavior will be much more satisfactory and will enable him to change, because Hashem is directly impacting him and motivating him to change. This is what Hashem had in mind in marriage. It starts with this concept of chen isha al bala, a woman expressing and knowing how to express her attachment to her husband, her loyalty to her husband. Okay, and why? Because we know from Bereshis that woman and man were created as a unit. Woman was taken etzem me'atzamav. She's a bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. Okay, so a woman has to be aware that her true life is, her true fulfillment in life is with this husband. In other words, the self-development that comes into play is with this husband. And he brings out all her weaknesses. That's dafka, Hashem, why Hashem put them together. Because her nefesh is carved out from his. They are a unity. Okay, and this faithfulness, this deep faithfulness, this deep feeling, this very, very deep feeling, right, will take them through all of life's circumstances. And our stability in life is based on this faithfulness. And that's why marriage is called a bris. A bris is a covenant. It is a bria. It is there's only two connections that are called a brit. The connection between Am Yisrael and Kadosh Baruch Hu, which is our faithfulness to our belonging to Hashem, and our faithfulness to our belonging to our husband. That's the Brit Nisuin. And so that's why chen is the underlying. You go into it with the approach is the attachment and the belonging. Okay, so Hashem, therefore, let me just see how we're doing here. Yeah, okay. Oh, by the way, I want to mention that today's shir should be for Refuah Shlema for our dear Chaya, who's having knee surgery today. Let me just remember her whole name. Hold on 1 minute, please. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Okay. 1 minute. Samet, S-A-M-E-T. Okay. It's not coming up yet. 1 minute, one more time. Samet. Here we go. Yes. Yes. Chaya Tova Bas Esther. She should have a Mirza Hashem knee surgery should go well today, and she should have a good shaliach in the surgeon, and she should have a speedy recovery. Chaya Tova Bas Esther. Yeah. Okay, getting back to our Sefer. All right, so do you understand this is like it's such a shift in our thinking here. We have to believe in a concept of total being attached to each other. And being attached to each other between husband and wife is no different than Hashem telling us as Am Yisrael. Hashem is attached to Am Yisrael, and Am Yisrael is attached to Hashem, and the loyalty is visible clearly. Look again at Rabbi D, his loyalty, his Emunah, and his attachment to Hashem, to Am Yisrael, and to Eretz Yisrael. And that's how the covenant is fulfilled in all circumstances. And one more aspect of this, every Jewish marriage, because of this, because every Jewish marriage is based on a spiritual reality. The husband and wife are a unity, and they are completely attached to each other. This marriage actually sustains the whole universe. The stability of the universe is based on Jewish marriage. So what do you think? The outside world wants to squeeze the spiritual truths out of the picture and squeeze the Torah values out of life and ruin family lives, ruin them. And that is the other force. And we have a choice. We have a free will choice. Do we go with the sunshine world reality or the candlelit world reality? Amnam bris hanisum mitchadeshet lezug al yedei hashlemut v'hasimcha hamira be'et hatova. So there's good times and easy, like I said, easier, flowy times. And those times are to energize us, to give us that for the energy to put into practice the connection during the harder times. And right, and it's the same way Hashem asked us to, he gave us Torah, the Sinai, after Hashem showed us his loyalty to Am Yisrael. Never was a slave nation freed. They get usually swallowed up in the culture, in the host culture. So Hashem first showed his loyalty to Am Yisrael, and then took us to and Kriyas Yam Suf and everything, and then took us to Har Sinai and gave us the Torah, our life, our eternal relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu belonging. Okay, and so yes, so the essence of a brit is that we can observe and we can protect the unity, the belonging to, and be faithful even at a time of tzara, of great, what's he say? Tzara is not just a problem, but of distress, let's say. Kafisha amru chazal b'midrash shehevenu. Okay, so as our sages said in the midrash, let's see, b'shah shehi ashir, shehaya ashir, hachileni v'hil bishani. So when the husband was rich, he fed me and he clothed me. Now that he became poor, Eini koferbo, I'm not going to betray him. Kolomar hachavaya shel hashlama hahadayit b'shah shehi haya ashir eino mistayemet. Okay, so this feeling of fulfillment and mutual fulfillment when he was rich does not end. Because the external satisfactions and fulfillments and goals fulfilled, external goals, is there. Hashem gives us, balances that, right? To tell us that it's not just external, there's internal, there's something that makes us connected internally, this internal unity, which doesn't have to have always the most non-distressing situations. It takes us through the good and the distressing ones as well. Because if it's only for the good times, that's not ishut, that we feel we belong to each other. That's reyut. Reyut is an external goal. When we're reaching it, fine. If we're not falling back on another reality, which a deeper reality, and that is the unity and the attachment between the husband and wife. Shehi shleimutam hamitit mitzad shoresh nafsham. So the unity is the real fulfillment, because it comes from the essence, the root of their nefesh, and all good comes from that unity. So you have to see what's happening here in the world of broken up marriages. Many times, I don't know, I'm sure there'll be plenty of studies, and they probably are already, but it's very destabilizing. And there are times when it's necessary to have a divorce, and it's a mitzvah to give a get. So if it's deemed necessary, but it is a very destabilizing thing in our lives. Stability comes from unity. But if the marriage is just, and we said, it's just based on externals, okay, so that is called actually like prostitution, for the moment. For the moment, we're together. For the moment, you're satisfied with me. For the moment, I'm going to respond. So if you're giving me what I want, I thank you. And if you don't, I'm not going to even recognize you. Okay. And as I say, it's when you don't that people come to me and say, well, I'm not getting what I need from the marriage. And then we have to go into how do we elicit, how do we get, what is my part? What am I not doing in order to get what I want from the marriage? Am I judgmental? Do I show my husband my attachment to him? Do I show him my loyalty? Do you think is it enough to just put 3 meals of feed our husbands 3 meals a day and appear in the bedroom without necessarily any sense of attachment? And eating should be, a king does not sit alone. So we should try our best to try to eat with our husband. If we're not hungry and he came in late and we've already had supper, try to even keep him company as he's sitting down and eating. This shows attachment, this shows loyalty. Okay, let's hear. It's a little bit earlier than I thought, so I think I'll stop and I'll ask everybody to say one thing you heard today. And hold on, I just pull out my notebook. Okay, I don't know. All right. Let's see here. Some people had to leave. Some people wanted to leave. Okay, one moment, please. Back into my pen. The teacher.
Rabbanit, we can't hear you, I don't think.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Where am I here? Sorry. Okay. Thank you for being so patient. It was an important call. You'll have to be 1 more minute patient if you don't mind. I don't know. Today is one of those slow starting days. I'm trying to figure out where my pens went to. All right, Mel, want to start? One thing you heard today stands out in your mind.
Sure. I like our marriage is our address. It is exactly where we belong once we leave the chuppah.
Yes. Marriage is our address, where we belong once we leave the chuppah. Great. Meirav?
Hi, I really liked just that there are good times to energize us and to put into practice the connection in the other times. And the bris,
Right.
the unity is when we can be faithful even in times of sorrows.
That's it. That's it. I mean, when everything's good, you know, what's the value of a bris? If everything's good, you're getting, you know, it's when things are disrupted that you have to know how to interact and how to behave. So the good times are to energize, and motivate, I would say. Motivate us to stay connected during the difficult times. Great. I lost my other two, but it's okay. I thank you very much for joining. And I wish everybody a wonderful week. We have a very busy week this week, Yom Zikaron, Yom, and then this big 1 million person demonstration in Yerushalayim on Thursday evening. So history is unfolding here in Eretz Yisrael. Jewish history is unfolding. Okay, thank you very much for joining.
Toda Rabbanit.
Have a beautiful day.
Bye,
Thank
thank you.
as well. Bye-bye.